Hey, it's Friday, it's 1 o'clock, and here we are. I'm just going to start my Instagram live as well. Okay. I want to welcome you all. It's Friday, and it is very, very close to 1 o'clock. So I'll give you a moment or two to realize that I am on live. I would love it if you could come and join me today. I want to thank you so much for your constant support today. I was reminded how much I love what I do. I got up this morning and I had a call with a student, and I got to help that student work through their difficulties with their paragraphs and think deep and ask difficult questions. Man, I love helping students. I just love when the lights come on and they can start to ask the difficult questions like, what difference does it make? And why does this matter? Because those are the ways that we make really, really persuasive writing. And I believe so strongly in persuasive writing. I'm just going to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I am Teresa Peters. I am a language arts mentor, and I am passionate about coming alongside students, helping them to dream big, to make a difference in their lives by managing their time, by setting goals, by working through the hard days, delaying their gratification, getting to the place they want to be with the least amount of work possible. Because, hey, we're all economists at heart, right? We need to be able to make things fit into our lives. And that is something that every student needs to learn. And we all need to learn that, don't we? So I want to tell you a little bit first just about what I offer, and then I'm going to get started on our topic for today. So I tutor students. As I was telling you, I had a one-on-one with a student this morning. So I tutor in classes, and I teach language arts for homeschoolers in classes. I do this because then students have peer accountability, and they know that everyone else is probably going to get their homework done, so they should too, or they're going to stand out, and maybe not for something they want to stand out for. And they also learn that other people fail, and they get back up and they keep right on going. They learn that everyone is struggling to learn to write. It's not just them, and it's just part of the process, learning how to write, just the way it is learning how to walk. So no one's born knowing how to walk, and no one's born knowing how to write. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you have a process ahead of you, and it's going to be some ups and downs. It's going to be some spills and tumbles, but along the way, you're going to get better and better, and you're going to advance. And that is exactly what we want to see. And that's what creates confidence in students, that really helps them to embrace the hard work that it takes to really get there. When they realize that they have some agency in their life, that they can do those hard things, that they can manage their time, it's amazing what students can do when they set their minds to it, when they really learn self-motivation, self-discipline, and confidence from that spills over into every area of their life. So I tutor in writing, paragraphs and essays, and I teach a whole language arts curriculum with literature, writing, public speaking, and all of the success mindset skills that I teach in the tutoring classes as well. Okay, without further ado, let's get on to our topic, because today is about the thinking student is a writing student, and writing students are thinking students. And this is the reason that we teach writing. It's not for a grade. It's not because when you get to college or university, you're going to have to write papers. That's kind of an artificial goal. The real reason behind writing papers, and the reason that every student, whether they go to college and university or not, needs to learn to write really powerfully, is because the skills that they learn when they learn to write like that are the exact same skills that are going to make them stand out in their workplace, that are going to help them to stand strong in the world, that are going to help them to stand up and give an answer for the things that they believe, being able to be logical, respectful, understanding, hearing all the sides of an argument and taking it into consideration. Those are the things that make us successful in this world. and the things that make us successful in the eyes of God as well. So I want to begin with a quote by Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I cannot agree with everything he says, and I do not advocate every principle that he has. However, this quote is amazing, and there are so many amazing things about the things he says, but we do have to always be careful and be critical thinkers. And I will say, the best speakers and the most persuasive speakers have the most ability to really change our minds. And the more skilled they are, the more careful we have to be, because they can control our thoughts very, very easily without us even realizing it. But this quote is beautiful. The best way to teach people critical thinking is to teach them to write, because there is no difference between that and thinking. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Wow. So I believe this to be absolutely true. There is no doubt in my mind that the skills that we learn when we write are the same skills that allow us to be critical thinkers, that allow us to question things, that allow us to ask difficult questions, and that really help us to be able to grasp a message that's coming in, ask questions about it, and come up with a reasonable solution. So today I want to actually walk through that process a little bit with you, with one of the topics that one of my students has for their essay. So we're just going to do one of her paragraphs from her essay. So it's just 1 point from her essay. And those of you on Instagram, you won't be able to see my screen, but on Facebook, you will be able to see my screen. So I will try to keep you all in the loop, even though you can't see the screen, Instagrammers. All right, so the topic that she is talking about is weight cutting. So this is in sport, especially like fighting sports. And what they do is when there's a competition coming, they weigh themselves and they see how close they are to the weight class just below their weight. Because if they can go in that weight class below their weight, then they will be one of the heaviest people in that class, and that gives them an advantage. Okay, they have an advantage because they're heavier and maybe stronger. So that gives them an advantage. So for years and years, fighters of all kinds have been weight cutting in order to get into the class, the weight class just below their weight. So her first reason is that weight cutting is not good for your mental health. So the reasons that she gives to prove this, the proofs that she gives for this reason, are that mental health is more important than we think, okay? That wrestlers who have lost the most body mass, 4% or more, have significantly higher levels of confusion on the day of the match. And the confusion was not increased for wrestlers who reduced their mass by less than 4%. There's another fact that she found: decreased short-term memory, vigor, concentration, self-esteem, as well as increased confusion, rage, fatigue, depression, and isolation in people who have reduced their body mass by 4% or more. And especially for young people, it is so easy to lose 4% of your body mass. Like, I mean, like imagine they're 100 pounds, they have to lose 4 pounds. They can lose 4 pounds in 24 hours, no problem. But when they do that, these are the effects that happen. So very often what will happen is that a student like this will so she has taken all of these ideas and she's put it into a paragraph frame. So I've asked her, what's your reason and how would you define the term? So she's defined mental health and why does it matter, and some facts that prove it. And so many students will just take that and they will like just copy and paste it into a paragraph all by itself. They go, oh, look at that. I have this really nice paragraph. So I'm just copying and pasting it right here. And you can't see it on Instagram, but I will read it to you in just a moment. And then, of course, she would need a conclusion at the end of this. So a conclusion sentence. So this is what she would end up with if she copied and pasted all her ideas. And this is usually where introductory essay writers begin. So they think, oh, look, I've got all the things in this nice handy organizer. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And very often they've not done it in point form like they were told to. They have actually done it in sentences. So it makes perfect sense to them. I'll just copy and paste it directly into a paragraph. And we come up with, weight cutting is not good for your mental health. Mental health is important for the way we think. Wrestlers who lost the most body mass, 4% or more, had significantly higher levels of confusion on the day of the match. Confusion was not increased for wrestlers who reduced their mass by less than 4%. They also had decreased short-term memory, vigor, concentration, and self-esteem, as well as increased confusion, rage, fatigue, depression, and isolation. And then she needed a conclusion sentence, which very likely, if she's an early essay writer, will be something like, weight cutting is not helpful for your fight. Okay, if she's actually really thinking, she will have connected that it's actually not helpful for your fight. So that paragraph is sort of choppy, as well as the fact that I suspect that these are copy pasted, so we can't use them, and that would be plagiarism. So, and I did ask her, and yes, they were copy pasted. So all of these things would have to be rewritten in her own words anyways. But here we are, we have this like sort of early paragraph. So that's not terrible. It's not a bad strategy for a first step, okay? Especially if these words were not copy pasted directly off a website. So we have an introduction sentence, weight cutting is not good for your mental health. We have a conclusion sentence, weight cutting is not helpful for your fight. And we have a bunch of facts slammed in the middle. And students often think that just throwing out facts is going to prove their point. But when you think about it, why do people weight cut? They don't weight cut for mental health reasons. They weight cut for a better performance in their fight. So perhaps it's better to turn this around a little bit and say, is weight cutting an advantage? No, it's not an advantage because it harms your mental health. So that's what I encouraged her to do. And so she has actually rearranged all of this, and I can't wait to read her essay because it's going to be amazing. So we walked through this process together. So we learn in class, and then when students are struggling or they need one-on-one help, they book a call with me and I help them through the process. And we talk about, well, how could we do this? So right now I'm going to walk you through the things that I talked with her about. So the first thing I said is, let's talk about the audience. Who's our audience? Who's going to read this? The audience should never be your teacher or your parent, unless you're trying to get your parent to change their mind about something. The audience should be someone who cares about this. So are they writing to wrestlers? Are they writing to the parents of very young wrestlers? So she chose writing to the parent of a very young wrestler. So as introduction sentence, I would suggest that we start with addressing the parent directly, because it's a very good hook. It gets the reader engaged. So we want to start with an introduction sentence that is a hook. I know in elementary school, we were all taught that our introductory sentence in our body paragraphs is supposed to be our reason that we're proving. Now, those patterns we're taught in elementary school are excellent frames. Have you ever seen a skater learning to skate? And they have one of those nice bars, right? And they push it around and it helps them to balance. If they push that bar around forever, we wouldn't be excited about that. We're excited because they can skate with the bar. But pretty soon, we want them to leave it behind and move on and skate on their own. And that's exactly what we want with essay writing. We don't want our students stuck in this pattern that they have to slavishly follow this rule that you always start your paragraph with your reason. And then you put your proofs, and then you wind it up with a conclusion that restates your reason. That's what we would expect from a grade 3 student writing a paragraph. That is maybe what we would expect from a grade 4, 5, maybe 6th grade, writing an essay. I encourage students, as soon as they are able, to make it part of their editing process to change this up. So it's okay to start with your reason in your rough draft, but then let's improve it so that we get out of our pattern and we learn to express the ideas and not be stuck with the pattern. So I suggest that we start with a really intriguing hook. So you want your student to win the fight, and you think that weight cutting to enter at a lower weight class will help. You might be wrong. That right there, that catches a parent. Whoa. Or it may cause your student to lose. Now, that's a big claim, but it's a claim that's going to catch their attention. And it's not unfounded, actually. So let's talk about the next points, and we'll see whether we can prove that claim or not prove that claim. It might cause their student to lose the match. All right. Wrestlers who lost the most body mass had significantly higher levels of confusion. So confusion is one of the symptoms. What are the other symptoms of losing more than 4% of your body mass? Decreased short-term memory, decreased vigor, concentration, and self-esteem. Now, I'm going to leave self-esteem off for the moment, not because it's not helpful in a fight, but because it's harder to prove. And we already have a lot of things here. It also increases confusion, rage, and fatigue. We're going to just leave out depression and isolation for now. She has another one that's about the depression and isolation piece. So she can use that fact at a different point in her essay. So these are the facts that we have that we can use. So I would ask, how is higher levels of confusion going to make it more likely that your student is your child will lose a match? How does decreased short-term memory or vigor or concentration mean that they might lose a match? What about confusion, rage, fatigue? Do these sound like things that are going to help your student or help your child win a fight? So the question I always tell my students to ask is, who cares? What difference does it make? It doesn't matter if it causes confusion, decreased short-term memory, loss of vigor, loss of concentration, confusion, rage, and fatigue, if those things don't affect the match. And if they don't affect the match, it doesn't really matter, because this is a very short-term thing. And as soon as they start to eat again, it won't make a difference. Okay? She does talk about long-term effects later in the essay. Okay, so the question to ask is, why does it matter? How can we prove that this is either an advantage in the match or a disadvantage in the match? So let's start with decreased short-term memory. If a fighter has decreased short-term memory, what might be the problem? Well, I would say they might not remember the last minute instructions that their coach gives them before they go onto the mats. What if their coach says, hey, this person always uses this strategy, make sure you watch for it? Or I just noticed they're favoring a certain side, make sure you attack from that side. Okay, your young person might not even remember them saying that at all. So I would say, okay, first of all, we need to introduce the idea. We need to say, for wrestlers who, or studies show, okay, and she has a source for that. Studies show that wrestlers who lost the most body mass, 4% or more, has a number of mental health deficiencies, not deficiencies, mental health effects, okay? Your fighter may experience decreased short-term memory, which may cause them to forget the last-minute instructions from their coach, okay? We want to make sure that we don't just say, oh, they're going to have decreased short-term memory, and leave it up to the reader to figure out if that matters or doesn't matter or why it might matter. So we want to prove why it matters. So what difference does it make if they have decreased short-term memory? They might forget the last-minute instructions from their coach. They also may experience, let's just pick one more, two more. They also may experience a loss of or a reduction in concentration. And what difference does that make? Does it matter in a fight if you have reduced concentration? What if just for a split second you're distracted by something or you lose concentration? I'll tell you what happens. You get hit hard and you might be injured. That's exactly what happens. The people who leave that match with the least injuries consistently are the people who have the most focus, the people who have the most concentration and are able to pay attention, not be distracted by anything else that's going on around them, because they have to be completely focused on what's happening to protect themselves, okay? Which may cause a loss of focus and increase the likelihood of injury. Okay, one more. Let's just do one more. Rage. What about rage? Okay, because some parents might read this list and they might say, oh, rage is going to help. Absolutely. Let's start the other side of the sentence. Instead of again saying they also may experience or another effect is, we could start the other way. We could say rage is an effect that many may think would be helpful. But what happens with rage? Rage is not just anger. What is rage? So I encourage the students to look up, what does rage mean? Rage means like out of control anger, okay? Some people might think that's helpful, but at some point you lose control of your emotions, and this may result in faults or penalties, even being barred from the competition. Okay? Wow, what do we have so far? You want your student to win the fight, and you think that weight cutting to enter a lower weight class will help. You might be wrong. It may cause your student to lose the match. Students show that wrestlers who lost the most body mass, 4% or more, had a number of mental health effects. Your fighter may experience decreased short-term memory, which may cause them to forget the last-minute instructions from their coach. They also may experience a reduction in concentration, which may cause a loss of focus and increase the likelihood of injury. Rage is an effect that many think would be helpful, but at some point you lose control of your emotions, and this may result in faults or penalties, even being barred from the competition. How do we wind up this paragraph? Because we've already proven it with 3 points. This is plenty for a middle school or early high school essay, all right? Because she has other paragraphs and she's doing this with every single paragraph. Okay, how could we wind this up? We do not want to say weight cutting is bad for your mental health, because that's not really what we've proven. What have we really proven here? We've really proven that weight cutting might not be as much of an advantage as people are saying. And it may even she would actually want to transition to her next paragraph. So her next paragraph might be about long-term effects, may even cause long-term effects. Okay, so now we've not only wound this up saying weight cutting is not as big of an advantage as people are saying, and it might even have long-term effects. Then the next paragraph is about long-term effects. So when our students are outlining, okay, we want to get them to think like this. Now, this student didn't think like this in her outline, but it's the first essay this year and the first essay with me. So for her, this is brand new. So even though in the outline, we would always leave notes and say, why does this matter? Explain why this matters. Because every single assignment that comes in, we leave feedback on it. We ask the students to think deeper. Then before they go into the next assignment, they're supposed to take that feedback and incorporate it back into their writing, copy that last bit of writing, move it to the next assignment, and then we move on. Because students need to see that writing is a process. It's not something that just happens. And that makes them good thinkers too. It also makes them be able to push through and continue doing it because they know it's not about perfection right now. It's about slowly and surely improving their writing. And every step of the way, we improve their writing. So this is how we teach students to think as they write. So they can use this thinking process every day when they're faced with media, every day when someone comes and talks to them, that they can ask questions like, okay, you say I should buy that brand new car, but what difference does it really make? Does it matter that my car is 5 years old? What are you getting out of this? Why are you saying this to me? And as we do our research, we're asking those questions. Make sure your source isn't trying to sell you something. Why is your source telling you what they're telling you? Do they have another reason? Are they reliable? And even then, even if it's a reliable source, we need to ask questions. We need to wonder if it's going to be a reasonable response or not. So we need to teach students to think critically, to think deeply, to ask hard questions, and to actually make a difference. When students learn how to be persuasive, the way that I just showed you here, we really teach students how they can really make an impact with their words, because people are doing this all of the time. And in essays, we do it very purposefully, very blatantly. We look at our audience, we find out what matters to our audience. We actually consider that when we look at the proofs, just like we did here. And that makes them persuasive. It is that skill, that critical thinking skill, that really makes a writing student a thinking person. They become thinking young adults that can evaluate the world and ask deep questions, ask the hard questions, ask someone else, well, okay, but what difference would that make if that were true? They should be asking that. Don't just accept it. Just because someone tells you something that seems like it should be true as part of an argument, that doesn't mean it makes a difference to the argument. We should be asking questions. That makes them thinking young adults. It makes them thinking and persuasive adults all around. And it brings them success that they couldn't otherwise have when they go into a job interview. And the employer asks them, so can you tell me a time when you dealt with something difficult in your life and how it changed you? They're going to be able to think, what does the employer want? They don't just want to know a difficult thing and how it changed me. They want to see how I reacted, how I responded, and how it made a difference in my life. And they will add how it'll make a difference in their future and in this job that they're doing right now, because they know and they're thinking about what that employer is really looking for, because the employer is asking, is this person going to be good in this environment? And if you just show them right off the top, oh yeah, I had an experience like this. It was very difficult. And I learned this and this. And in this job, this is really going to help because of this skill that I learned. Right away, you're showing that you're thinking, you're persuasive, and that you really understand what they're looking for. These are the skills that are going to make a difference in job interviews. They're going to make a difference in the workplace. They're going to make a difference in relationships, in the way we discuss things with one another, in the way we disagree, because we all do. So today, if you need a little bit of help, if you have some questions about this and you would like to ask me those questions, I am your language arts mentor. Even if your student is not in my class, please reach out. I love to help people. I love to help students. Nothing makes me happier. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can DM me on Instagram. You can message me on Facebook. You can check out my Facebook group, facebook.com/groups Language Arts Success. I can't wait to hear from you. Have an awesome Friday, and I'll see you next week.